How do I do that? Come on. Hello. Shoot. See. I was trying to share. I need to get a link to T. Nathan. I don't know how to do it.
Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through, but not so doggone seasoned that he won't try something new? A man who's old enough to know
and young enough to do.
Well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. But it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy. Do you want a man with spirit who is not afraid to fight?
A man whose record shows that he will fight for what is right.
A loyal man who brings the job a fresh new point of view. Well, it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to
Can you
you.
hear me?
It's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy,
Kennedy, Kennedy, Kennedy.
And do you deny to any man the right he's guaranteed to be elected president, no matter what his creed?
It's promised in the Bill of Rights to which we must be true.
So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. And it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy. Do you like a man who answers straight, a man who's always fair? We'll measure him against the others, and when you compare, you cast your vote for Kennedy, and a change that's overdue. So it's up to you, it's up to you, it's strictly up to you. Yes, it's Kennedy, 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 Kennedy,
Welcome from my humble second bedroom here in the Saucon Valley, part of the Lehigh Valley in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Part of these United States, North American continent, Western Hemisphere. On this planet Earth, the only one we have. Third rock from the sun in the Terran solar system. This is TKE Tonight, Kennedy Effect Tonight.
I
4th of
don't
September.
have an email for him. I have a phone number. If
We're
you wanna
on.
Text him.
We're on right now.
I don't know if you have his phone number.
We're live.
I can't hear you at all.
You can't hear me.
You're not muted. I can see that you're not muted, but I can't.
No, I am definitely
I
not.
can't hear you at all.
I am not muted.
It's not going through the board.
Well, it is. It would appear that the people listening can hear me. It's going through everywhere. That's a great... I'm not sure what to say about that. My square's lighting up when I talk. I don't know. That's a great question. I don't know. Donna says she can hear us both, but you can't hear me for whatever reason. That's a great... What else is new? It's a D ending. It's a day ending in DAY, so of course there's going to be some sort of technical issue. It's a day ending. It's a day ending in DAY, so of course it's going to be some kind of technical issue.
I'm going to leave. I'm going to try to get back in. All right.
Anyway, let's get started. A little bit of a muted tone to the program tonight, because I think there is really only one big story to discuss, and that, of course, is, back to school season brings a lot of things. The fall, the autumn, in your calendar brings a lot of different things. It brings football season, American football season. Actually, it does bring soccer season at high school too, doesn't it? In schools.
I still don't hear you.
It brings you clothes shopping, back to school shopping.
Isn't that wonderful?
It brings you new adventures, new friends, sometimes new schools. When your students, your children move from elementary to the middle school, from middle school to high school. Maybe you move towns, and it's a brand new experience, a completely new district and experience for your kids. But it brings a lot of things. Learning new bus routes and just a lot of different things. In a very strange way, even though the beginning of the school year comes toward the end of a calendar year, it is a very interesting sort of renewal, or sense of renewal, sense of new, like the kind of feeling that we would normally get in the springtime. Sense of I don't want to say wonderment. I guess that's maybe not the right word, but of just things being new and being and it being a fresh start, so to speak. And I think the beginning of a school year brings all of that. But in our country, it also brings something what has become all too regular and very, very unique to our country. And that is, of course, mass shootings. Other Western industrialized countries do not have to put up with what we seem to be all too willing to put up with in this country. And that is, of course, mass shootings in our schools. And today, of course, laid bare yet another mass shooting here in the United States. And that, of course, happened in Georgia. And I will get to the actual story in just a moment. But why there's so many different things that come to mind when it's yet another mass shooting day here in the United States. And mass shooting day. One has to wonder, when is enough enough? When are we done with this? When do we become tired of this? When are we done with this? When do we become? Where is it coming from? It might be coming from Georgia's end, I'm not sure. That's okay. It happens. We're used to things like that. And I don't know that we'll be able to take the entire hour to discuss this, oddly, because it is such a deep subject that we could spend a hell of a lot longer than an hour on it. There are deep cultural significance to this. There are legal significances. If I didn't just make a word, I might have. It is, and yet there's just the base, what I hope would be the human emotions of it, of just sadness, profound sadness, frustration, anger. And then what I think might be the scariest feeling of all of it, complacency. We have, in fact, become used to this. We accept it. It has become part of our kids attending public school. And while I don't think we are consciously accepting of such a thing, I do think that we are passively, because in another, well, let's put it, tomorrow's Thursday. So we'll talk about this a lot for the rest of the night. We'll talk about it tomorrow. We'll talk about it Friday. And then the weekend will come. And the media may stay in Georgia for most of that time, but by the time next Monday rolls around, we'll be back to the campaign because the debate will be approaching. And I don't know that that's entirely wrong, just to be honest with you. I think there's some sense of naturalness, if you will, to that. So, but there is an acceptance here. We have grown used to this. There will be outrage, there will be anger, there will be sadness, there will be tears. Every single Republican, in all likelihood without exception. If there is an exception, gosh, I hope there is. I will tell you on this program a lot of things that I hope I'm wrong about. That would be one of them. I hope that we will see some Republicans stand up and say that we have to actually do something about this. But in all likelihood, we'll hear the usual, this is just not the time. This is not the time to talk about such things. Which is really tantamount to saying, the car flipped over on the interstate, the driver wasn't wearing a seatbelt and got crushed. It's not the time to talk about seatbelts. The most popular kid in school overdosed. This is not the time to talk about drugs. It's funny how Republicans always have time to talk about immigrants, especially when there's no story. They love to talk about trans people, especially when there's no story. But when yet another mass murder happens, it's just not the time. It's not the time to talk about that. Can't talk about that right now. So, I don't know. But when is it? I would ask all of you. I would ask all of you. And if if you're not with us live when you see this, if you happen to see the recording, I think the question is no less valid. What do you think? When is enough enough? I don't know what to say. I don't know. I mean, I think enough is enough came a really long time ago. It came before Uvalde. It came before Sandy Hook. Probably goes back to what I guess the first mass shooting at an institution of learning was probably University of Texas. The guy was on the clock tower. Or maybe in the modern era, if you will, although that's pretty modern, 60s. Columbine. But how many more of these? It's 8:14 Eastern Time. This is the Kennedy Effect, TKE tonight for the 4th of September, 2024. We are live right now on my own personal Facebook, Jeff Kennedy. We are live on our home group Facebook page for all things that surround our program. News, articles, discussion, questions, memes, polls. George is there. Everybody that surrounds the program is on our group page. It's called That Other Side of Information, which is also the name of our YouTube channel. We are live there right now. If you ever miss any of our program, I would invite you very much to go to our YouTube channel, That Other Side of Information. Be a subscriber. It does not cost anything to be a subscriber. What it does give you is an alert every time we hit the air or every time there's a new piece of video on our channel. You'll get an alert. You can jump over and check it out. We are live on our Twitch right now, which is Jeff R. Kennedy, R for our middle initial. And we are on LinkedIn, Jeff Kennedy, as well. And of course, the audio blasting around the globe on I would say the newest internet radio sensation, but I bet somebody else has started. We celebrated our 2-month, I would say 2-month anniversary, but the very word anniversary itself root word is annum for year, but I guess it would still be appropriate. Our 2-month anniversary was just on September. Well, it's today. No, it wasn't. It was on the 1st. I take that back because we started on July 1st. So we are just a hair over 2 months old. And that is GCPR.live. Ghost Claw Productions Radio.live. L-I-V-E. GCPR.live. Link is in the chat, as it always is. We invite you to go to our website, check us out, find out about our program schedule, our hosts, our other shows, where you can find us to watch and listen. We will try to take a call a bit later, but first, as far as the technical side of things, George cannot hear me. He is actually listening to me through GCPR. When he talks, you can both hear us. Wait, I messed that completely up. I know that when he talks, because you've been kind enough to tell me so in the chat, you all on your end can hear him. He cannot hear me in real time. He's hearing me on a delay, which I think is roughly 10 seconds. Could be as much as 17, but I think it's in the 10-second range. So he will be able to chat with you, but it's going to be very, very choppy. I have absolutely no explanation for why this has happened. I did not touch a single thing from last night. I actually don't even shut these programs down anymore because I'm afraid to lose everything. So this shouldn't be happening, but it is. It is what it is. It just, it's a day ending in DAY. So something wrong is something's going to happen incorrectly. It just is what it is. Allow me to quickly do this. Sorry. I'm trying to share something here in case we get a guest before we sign off. Let me again, of course, remind you of the rest of the broadcast day. Conversations with T. Nathan, and I happen to know already that T. Nathan will be talking about this shooting as well. But because he and I come from such completely different backgrounds, I have a feeling that while we will agree on nearly everything, he simply comes from a different point of view as me because he grew up completely differently. So it's the freshness of the opinion is still there because he grew up completely differently from me. And even though I'm sure we agree on just about everything, if not everything, surrounding this, you're going to want to hear what he has to say. That's why he's here every night from 11 p.m. Eastern on GCPR Live and our video outlets as well. Just Google them, put them in DuckDuckGo, you'll find us. Conversations with T. Nathan, and remember, Thomas Bishop, Thomas the Villain returns tomorrow morning from 8 a.m. as well. Let me go to the Associated Press and get to the actual article itself, or at least as close to, it looks like it's been completely rewritten at this point. There were updates coming to the article throughout the day. I'm glad I did not save it or post it because it looks like it's been changing. The author is Jeff Amy, not me. Jeff Amy, Jeff A-M-Y, is the author. Dateline. I hope I say this right because I have not seen any television reporting on this yet, not at all. After work, I had healthcare stuff to take care of. I did groceries, I ate dinner, I came to sit down with you. So it is Winder, Georgia. I don't know if it's Winder or Winder, Georgia. Somebody will probably know out there. I honestly don't know. Headline, a 14-year-old student fatally shot 4 people in a rampage at a Georgia high school, officials say. Again, this is from the Associated Press from today, only hours ago. The author is Jeff Amy. Dateline, Winder, Georgia. A 14-year-old student opened fire at a Georgia high school and killed 4 people on Wednesday, authorities said, sending students scrambling for shelter in their classrooms and eventually to the football stadium as officers swarmed the campus and parents raced to find out if their children were safe. The dead were identified as 2 students and 2 teachers at the Appalachia High School in Winder, about an hour's drive from Atlanta. At least 9 other people, 8 students and 1 teacher, were taken to hospitals with injuries. The words, quote-unquote, hard lockdown appeared on a screen in junior Layla Farrell's health class, and lights began flashing. She and her frightened classmates piled desks and chairs in front of the door to create a barricade, she recalled. Sophomore Kaylee Abner was in geometry class when she heard the gunshots. She and her classmates ducked behind their teacher's desk, and then the teacher began flipping the desk in an attempt to barricade the classroom door, Abner said. A classmate beside her was praying, and she held his hand while they all waited for police. After students poured into the football stadium, Abner saw teachers who had taken off their shirts to help treat gunshot wounds. 2 school resource officers encountered the shooter within minutes after a report of shots fired went out. Georgia Bureau of Investigation Director Chris Hosey said the suspect, a student at the school, immediately surrendered and was taken into custody. He is being charged as an adult with murder. I'll finish the article because I think it's worth finishing. There's a couple things that jump out to you there. One, the shooter was 14. 14 years old. What is going on in the life of a 14-year-old that their answer to everything is to grab a gun and shoot everyone they can see? It sounds, I'm not an expert, I wasn't there, I am not completely up to date on all the reporting to this point. Sounds like it is an absolute miracle that more people weren't killed. Now, you had 13 people shot, 4 dead, 9 injured. Sounds like could have been much, much, much worse. Here's another thing that jumps out at me. Screens in the classroom. There was a system in place. Let me read the 3rd paragraph for you again. The words, quote, hard lockdown, unquote, appeared on a screen. So it would appear that each of these classrooms, easy for me to say, has a screen in it that immediately flashed lockdown. And lights began to flash as a signal to the teachers and students we're at war. There's a shooter in the building. They've had, I would bet, maybe it'll get covered later in the article. I probably should just finish the darn article. They had a system in place for this. Now, on the one hand, I think to myself, probably a good idea. On the other hand, and when do we start asking ourselves this question? Why do we have to have a system in place? And this speaks to this level of acceptance that I see. And I'm going to tell you, I do a lot on this program. I try to look in the mirror on this program. I try not to say anything that isn't true. I get things wrong. And sometimes when I get it wrong, it ends up being something that wasn't true because I got it wrong. I also try to look in the mirror. Try to put myself in the place of those I do not agree with. I can understand why certain people would turn to the MAGA cult, especially surrounding economic reasoning, because I've been effed just like the rest of the 99%. But I happen to know that the answers are not fascism. The answers are in the New Deal. But I can put myself in the place of somebody who has been so screwed by 40 plus years of Reaganism, nearly 44 years now of Reaganism, 43 years. It'll be 44 years on January 20th of 2025. That I can understand why they would be searching for some other type of solution and thinking that Trump and MAGA and fascism might actually be that. And so I say all of this self-deprecation because I am guilty too. By next week, I will have probably forgotten about this story. And not like completely forgotten about it. I'm going to remember that it happened. And by next Wednesday, I'll say, wow, it was a week already since that shooting. But the campaign will take over. The debate will happen. There will be plenty of things to talk about. And that brings me back to the word I keep saying, complacency and acceptance. We have become complacent about these things as a nation. We have allowed an extremely tiny number of people in this country, more specifically the billionaire class and the people that own the NRA, to dictate policy for all of us. 90+% of NRA members, paid NRA members paying to be part of the NRA, 90+% of them support universal background checks, laws for requirement of safe storage of weapons in the home, and that if you fail to secure said weapons, that's a crime. I think it's 64% of the general population supports an assault weapons ban. Now, I didn't even get to the part of the article that speaks about the weapon. And yet, the gun lobby rides, no pun intended, rides roughshod over our government as a direct result of Citizens United, and policy positions that 90% of the people agree with still don't become law. And we throw up our hands, we say thoughts and prayers, we hear people like Ted Cruz say this, oh gosh, it's terrible, terrible, my prayers are with the family, but this is not the time to talk about guns. And then in a week it goes away. And in the interim, in that discussion, you see people, well, let's remember, Wayne LaPierre is under federal indictment for being a foreign agent and laundering campaign money, and for breach of contract, and for, false and what's the word I'm looking for, deceptive business practices, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But, yeah. But he'll come out on the attack and say, the lefties want to come take your guns. And he'll scare a bunch of people who don't know any better. It's just, it's frightening. We have become complacent. We just are. We have become complacent. And I, again, I'm guilty. I truly am guilty. I do it too. I will forget about this story. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. Well, it's wrong. I shouldn't. But many of us will. Especially when the debate comes up tomorrow. Jeez. Try and talk, Jeff. Next week. On the 10th. When the debate happens, we will become complacent. We'll move on. I know that's not the most attractive thing in the world, but I am completely large. Here's my Marco Rubio moment. Bonus points to all of you who remember that reference. 8:32 Eastern Time, you're watching and listening to TKE Tonight, the Kennedy Effect Tonight for the 4th of September, 2024. We are live right now on my personal Facebook, Jeff Kennedy. We are live on our home group Facebook page for all things surrounding this program. That Other Side of Information. We are live on Twitch, Jeff R. Kennedy. We are live on my LinkedIn, which is also Jeff Kennedy. And we are live on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/That Other Side of Information. Always the best place to go to catch up on anything that you may have missed surrounding our program. The audio, of course, blasts around the globe via the Vosscast website and the Shoutcast app. Vosscast.com, Shoutcast.com. There's also an app called Shoutcast. You can find us there. GCPR.live. Ghost Claw Productions Radio.live. Plug that into any search engine of your choice. You will find us. Conversations with T. Nathan comes up following us at 11 p.m. A little bit of a break in between. You know the old joke, walk the dog, get some milk and cookies, etc., etc. T. Nathan from 11. Thomas returns tomorrow morning from 8 a.m. I can't imagine that this will not be on their radar. Couple of comments. Now, I haven't read these. Donna says our local news station ran this online. People, of course, are saying that it wasn't the gun's fault. They're calling for his parents to be arrested. That will be part of the. That will be part of the investigation, and there are states that have made the parents liable for such things. And I don't mean liable as in like you printing falsehoods kind of liable. I mean responsible, legally responsible. Donna mentions that the parents could be innocent in all of this. You are correct. They very well could be. This just happened a few hours ago. We don't know any of that yet. There's a lot more investigating to be done here. And I do want to read the rest of the article. Randall mentions school safety officer immediately responded to the shooter, disarmed him, and put him in handcuffs. This officer's immediate response to the shooter shows us he is a hero and there would have been more victims. It certainly sounds that way. It certainly sounds this way. I also don't know the racial makeup of the shooter. I look forward to finding out as to why the shooter himself wasn't shot. That will be interesting. And I think all of you know exactly what I mean. Someone put a tremendously long Mike put a huge quote in here, comment in here. I'm gonna completely blank. There we go. The best. Well, that's why I have a face for radio. Look at that thing, huh? That's a book, isn't it? I'm 61, and from the time I could drive in 1978, I took 2 guns to school every day. 410 single. I don't know. I think you'd say it 410. Probably saying it wrong. Single shot and a 22 squirrel rifle that never shot anything living. Honestly, the thought of eating a squirrel, right? There was, in those days, living in and going to school in the country, all the boys that drove secondhand pickups had gun racks. Important part is that we were raised by dads who were hunters, and if we'd ever done something stupid with a gun, get it back, get it from your dads, that's for sure. We wouldn't have taken those guns out unless the Soviets were landing paratroopers. Certainly understand what you mean there. There wasn't a culture of movies that glorified guns. Yeah, okay. I always think blaming video games and movies is entirely too simple. I do think it's part of it. Truly, I do. I mean, look, when I was a kid, we played, if we played wiffle ball in the street, we were our favorite baseball players. If we played superheroes, we were our favorite superheroes, right? We got that from the comics. We got it from TV. So I do think there's some of that. But I think it's entirely too easy. We are a gun culture. We have, and I'm doing this entirely from memory, completely from memory. My ability to keep talking to you while I Google these things is non-existent. So I'm really missing George at this moment. But what I would say The United States has roughly 3%, 3 or 4% of the world's population. We have 22% of the world's privately owned firearms. There are more guns in this country than people. And we are a gun culture. And, you know, we talk a lot on the program about confronting MAGA cultists with facts. Well, the Second Amendment gun fetishists also hate facts. The fact that vast majorities of the general public and gun owners support background checks and assault weapons bans and safe and secure red flag laws. They hate that fact. But they also hate the fact of all the justices in history, of Justice Scalia himself. Scalia, of all the justices, who very famously said that the Second Amendment is not universal. It does, in fact, have limits. Now, he very conveniently never ruled in favor of any of those limits, because he took money from the gun lobby. But he did say, in public, the Second Amendment is not universal. It does have limits. He even admitted one of the great arguments for gun restrictions in this country, for weapons safety, and that's a very big mistake that the left continues to make. Instead of talking about gun control, they have recently moved into common sense gun legislation. No, it's weapons safety. These are weapons. One thing that Scalia even admitted to is that the founders had no conception of the weapons that we would be dealing with today. They were single shot muskets kept in armories. Let me turn the volume back up here. Oh, did I lose him? Shoot. I think I hung up on Randall entirely by mistake. I promise you, it was by mistake. Let me finish the article, if you wouldn't mind. No, why would I want to do it? Go ahead, it's all yours.
Can you hear me?
I think I can. Sorry, now I can. I had turned it down. I was trying to. Never mind. That's why I'm here every night. You can finish the thought another day. Go for it. Is it Mike?
Yes, it is.
Go on, my friend.
One thing. Yeah, I apologize. That was a copy paste from a post.
Oh, okay.
Just posted on a fence thing. But one of the things you kind of missed, I know that was a lot to read and you trailed off on it. What I came up against, was that we had different. When I grew up 50 years ago, almost now, the gun culture wasn't the same. And our fathers, most of the guys I grew up with, fathers were either in Vietnam or my father in Korea, a Marine Corps veteran. So I had to open, my father was a lifelong member of the NRA until he died, but I don't think he was that Wayne LaPierre kind of thing. And so, you wouldn't show out with a gun. You treated a gun with respect. It was a tool for hunting.
Yep.
The idea of home defense was kind of, way out there.
Right. Yes, exactly.
What I noticed, and why I blame movies and video games, is the subtlety of it. Because I saw kids, 30 years ago, my girlfriend's son was like 15, and he wanted one of these air fighter combat games. which is I talk about in that post. So we got it, we're playing it, and I realized this is very violent, even though it's very unrealistic in those days, and it wasn't photorealistic, but your wingman would get shot down, and he'd go, I'm hit, and you'd see him crash into the ground. And I said, this is kind of terrible, because we lived next door to the Air Force Base there in Gulfport, where they train Navy pilots. And I said to him, who was just shooting this thing up with glee, I said, you think about this, in a couple of years, these could be your classmates, that guy that's, auguring into the earth after being shot down. I said, let's send the wingmen who are just I think they're non-playing characters, send them back to the base, and we'll fight our way in. And I had to sit down and talk to him about the ethics of these first-person shooters and these gun things. And I realized he wasn't getting it from his own dad. The boy lived with me and his mom. And I had to really sit down and kind of have a long talks with him, philosophical talks with him about the violence in those games. And I think that in the 30 years since then, there's not a lot of parents engaged in what their kids are doing or violence. Have you ever seen something like Grand Theft Auto? They run over people, they kill people, they think it's funny. So they don't have any kind of, it's all like a game to them. And when they get really, really mad, like this kid probably in the school or the other school shootings, and the first one was about 60 miles from me in Brandon, Mississippi, about 30 years ago, before Columbine. That was the first mass shooting in America. I think it was like 95 or 96, something like that. And these kids are just kind of, especially boys, just are exposed to this hyper-aggressive, we kill people in these video games. That has a lot to do with it. And the DNRA isn't helping by regulating who gets a gun. Even if you're a discharged mental patient, get that guy a gun.
Because we know it's all about sales. It's all about sales and profit. The NRA is not a gun owners association anymore. It is largely owned and operated by the manufacturers to do anything possible to sell more and more and more and more guns. Why do you think that the NRA is first? Not a fallback position, not a compromise position. Their first answer, we'll arm all the teachers. We'll put more guns out there because somebody's got to buy them. They're not giving them away. So somebody's got to buy them. The answer's always more and more and more and more guns.
One more thing. I used to work in a Lowe's. I was a tool guy in a Lowe's here in Mississippi. And a rumor went around, it wasn't true, that there was some sort of ammunition. I think it was like 210 or something. It was going to be stop manufacturing, and it was only going to be 22 rifle bullets. So I had parades of idiots every day who come to the Lowe's and go, I need a drill bit so I can drill out my barrel so I can use 22 caliber bullets. And I'd say to them, listen, I'm not a gun expert, but drilling out a barrel, first of all, I don't have any drill bits that are long enough to even drill out a pistol barrel. But to do something like that, you have to have a workbench and you have to have a gunsmith. And if you're going tinkering around with a gun trying to drill out the barrel, that thing's going to explode on you, buddy. And they would get mad and still buy bits. They buy these very long wood bits that we sold made by DeWalt. I'd say the barrel is harder than that drill bit. Right. You can't do what you have to do.
Not to mention, I think drilling out, I think modifying like that is illegal in some places. I might be wrong. I might very well be wrong about that, but my understanding is that modifying a gun like that post manufacture is illegal. But if I'm wrong, as always, everybody can correct me.
I just want you to imagine guys in Trump hats. Mm-hmm. They probably weren't in Trump hats yet, but they were Tea Party kind of guys. Yep. Whether it was legal or not, that wasn't going to stop them.
No.
But they were idiots. And I'd say, go to the local gunsmith. There was a gunsmith here in town. I had to look him up. I said, Go and ask him. I'll bet he'll tell you the same thing I'm telling you. You'll die if you try to modify this gun by yourself. And what you're going to pay for him to modify your gun, you'll probably just buy a new one. And I'm pretty sure that's a rumor that's not true. And it wasn't.
Right. But that's not good enough.
People are plugged into that propaganda machine. Like you're saying, NRA has a lot to do with it. You know,
here's where I would agree with you, Mike, as far as I think the movie, Hollywood, video game, I think it's entirely too convenient of an excuse, to the point of almost being lazy. But here's where I think you are right in that, from that point of view. So we agree on this. I think we may just not agree to the same extent. What video games and movies can do is lay the foundation of a perception that the very first way that you solve any kind of difficulty is by shooting at it. There's, I always butcher this old saying, and I think actually even you yourself may have corrected me at some point. I'm sure George did too. That when all you have is a hammer, all you see are nails. And or it can also be told that when all your problems are nails, the only solution you see is a hammer. So same idea. I'm probably butchering it both ways, but that's the one place where I do think and not just you either, but everybody that seems to, immediately blame Hollywood and video games and so on. That part is where I think you're spot on. Is that what video games can do is just teach us that, well, not teach us. They provide the example that when all you see are nails, the only answer you have is a hammer. That the only answer you have to any type of situation is to shoot at it.
Right. But here's the thing. I bet you've never played Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto or seen any video game play of what these young boys are doing.
I've seen
and
it.
You really need to go and look at it. I mean, the GTA stuff, somehow or another it popped up one time in my Facebook feed. I don't know what it was coming from. I don't remember, but I watched it in absolute horror, right? There's a prostitute, a very badly animated prostitute on the corner, and these guys were taking turns mowing her down with, a car, and they thought it was hilarious. I mean, I guess it is for them if they're just sort of latchkey kids who have no dad in the home or mom and dad are checked out. But the level of violence you will see in those games will astonish you.
Yep.
And if you don't have somebody to sit down, like I sat Jeff down, I said, think about these guys who are dying in this flight simulator combat video game. Those guys are going to be your classmates in a few years. Imagine having to tell one of your classmates, mom and dad, that you were on one of these, because you wanted to join the Air Force or the Navy and fly planes. I said, imagine having to tell them that, pick a friend of yours. Imagine having to tell his parents that he died on the mission, right? Even if you couldn't do anything to help him. Imagine doing that. And I realized, I saw in his eyes, nobody had ever made him think about that before. Right. And I think that's what the vast majority of these kids that wind up being school shooters, it's a total breakdown of learning about empathy in the home.
Or not learning it as it were. Yeah. Right. Learning it or not learning it as it were. Yep.
But we're never really going to put this genie back in the bottle. I mean, it's a astonishing amount of guns. If we did the thing like Australia where we saw one of these things and everybody said, I'm going to turn in my guns. Can you imagine how many 18-wheeler trucks?
Well, they certainly
round up all those guns.
Yeah, and that I would encourage everybody to Google what Mike is referencing. They had a mass shooting in Australia, and they went into full response mode, and haven't had one since. I would strongly encourage you all to just give that a search. search engine of your choice. I would recommend DuckDuckGo, but whatever search engine of your choice, just plug that in. Australian response to mass shooting or legislation against mass shooting. You'll find it, and it's not anything that we could not do here. We simply money rules all here. Money rules all. There was a reason why Reagan wanted to destroy the New Deal. It wasn't just the social safety net. He wanted to destroy the regulatory structure behind it, and he did. And shame on us as Democrats for not reversing it. That it took President Biden to be the first one to even say the words that the myth of trickle down must end. So, anyway, let me wrap up here, Mike. Thank you very much for taking a few minutes. And in all sincerity, you're exactly the kind of guy that I wish that I had always hoped would tune into this program. That we agree on some things, we disagree on others. You call, you're not afraid to call when we talk to each other. It's civil, whether we're agreeing or not. You're exactly the kind of guy I'd always hoped would, the kind of person, not just guy, kind of person that I'd always hoped would be part of the program. I'm honored that you're here each night, and I appreciate it very much, and I hope you continue to spread the word.
Have a good night, man.
Thank you so much. I want to get to the rest of the article before we go here. We have about 6 minutes left. I do this every night. I think I know. And it's Wednesday. Actually, there is supposed to be a program on after us, so we do have to finish. I will try to find out what it is. Actually, see what I can do. Trying to go too fast, and it's not even English. Let me try to get to the rest of the program. It's tomorrow. Okay, so the rest of the program. Oh my God, my brain. No, it's the rest of the article. Okay, we got that. So I'm returning to the article again. This is from the Associated Press. The author of the article is Jeff Amy and Dateline, Georgia. So we pick up the article where we left off. And again, let me also say, by the way, I deeply encourage you to check out the Associated Press, the AP app. It's free. It's unlimited. Check it out. The articles are well written. They're short, concise, to the point, factual, unbiased. It's a great news source, in my humble opinion. Authorities were still looking into how the suspect obtained the gun used in the shooting and got it into the school in Barrow County, about 50 miles, 80 kilometers northeast of Atlanta. At an afternoon news conference, officials would not say what type of gun was used. I told you earlier in the program as I was reading that I did not know what kind of gun it was. I still don't. I guess none of us do, or at least the closest reporting to when I sat down to be with you tonight. We still don't know what that is. Barrow County Sheriff Judd Smith choked up as he began to speak during the briefing. He said he was born and raised in the community and his kids are in the school system. Sheriff Barrow, quote, "My heart hurts for these kids. My heart hurts for our community. But I want to make it very clear that hate will not prevail in this county. I want that to be very clear and known. Love will prevail over what happened today." I hope the sheriff is right. I don't share his optimism, but I hope he is correct. You know, one of these nights too, I very much want to get the co-host of Cold Dead Hands on this program, Brett and Ben, because I do want to ask them about the role of the police in this issue. Police unions have gone very, very much toward the right, overwhelmingly endorsing Republican candidates over Democratic candidates. Of course, again, in a nation this large with this many people, nothing is exclusive. There are police unions who still endorse Democrats. It's not unusual. It is much more usual for them to endorse Republicans. That said, one has to wonder, and one has to push back at these police unions at some point, and these police officers. Police officers overwhelmingly support an assault weapons ban, red flag laws, all the common sense gun legislation that seems to be out in the general ether, expanded background checks, safe storage laws. And yet they continue to endorse Republicans who support none of those measures because they receive massive amounts of money from the NRA. But they continue to support Republicans who don't even want their own police union to exist. The same Republicans who stormed Capitol Hill and beat police officers with flagpoles, used the flagpoles as spears, ripped the shields, helmets, and clubs away from the very riot police and beat them with it. Go ahead, keep voting for them. Sometimes you get the government you deserve. Sometimes you get the government you voted for. It was the latest among dozens of school shootings across the U.S. in recent years, including especially deadly ones in Newtown, Connecticut, Parkland, Florida, and Uvalde, Texas. Classroom killings have set off fervent debates about gun control and frayed the nerves of parents whose children are growing up accustomed to active shooter drills in the classrooms, but they have done little to move the needle on national gun laws. Let's remember, too, by the way, this Biden administration, this current administration is the first one since the Clinton administration to pass any type of weapons safety legislation. And by the way, hey, all you politicos out there, all you paid consultants making a shit ton of money, not accomplishing a hell of a lot, there's some free messaging for you. It's not gun control. It's not even common sense gun legislation, even though it is. It's weapons safety protections. Protecting the public from weapons of war, from instruments of death. Start hitting people where it hurts. These are weapons safety measures, weapons safety protections. Before Wednesday, there had been 29 mass killings in the U.S. so far this year. And that's mass killings, not mass shootings. The U.S. averages more than one mass shooting per day. On average. There had been 29 mass killings in the U.S. so far this year, according to a database maintained by the Associated Press and USA Today in partnership with Northeastern University. At least 127 people died in those killings, which are defined as incidents in which 4 or more people die within a 24-hour period, not including the killer. Same definition is used by the FBI. Last year, 217 deaths from 42 mass killings, making 2023 one of the deadliest years on record for such shootings in the country. On Wednesday in Georgia, sophomore football player Jacob King said he had dozed off in his world history class after a morning practice when he heard about 10 gunshots. How terribly honest of a young man to admit. He had a morning football practice and fell asleep in world history. What's high school? Ashley Eno was at home in the morning when she got a text from her brother, a senior at Appalachia High. Just so you know, I love you. He was saying goodbye. Expected to be murdered. When Erin Clark, 42, received a text from her son, Ethan, a senior, saying there was an active shooter, she rushed from her job at the Amazon warehouse to the school. The two texted, I love you. Clark said she prayed for him as she drove. With the main road to the school blocked, she parked and ran with other parents They were directed to the football field, and amid the chaos, Clark found Ethan sitting on the bleachers. Clark said her son was writing an essay in class when he first heard gunfire. He worked with his classmates to barricade the door and hide. I'm so proud of him for doing that, she said. He was so brave. Why should he have to do it in the first place? I admit, it was kind of cool under pressure. It is kind of brave to put yourself in the line of fire. If you're building a barricade, you're right by the door. Pretty easy place to get shot. But why the hell should he have to do it in the first place? We're missing the effing point here. We're all missing the effing point here. It makes me scared to send him back, Clark said. I don't know what I'm going to do. I would suspect the school will be closed for quite a while. They will continue education again. They may actually have to use another school. They might use a series of churches. I have no idea. But I suspect the school building itself will be closed for quite a while, if not closed permanently. They'll all go back to school. Their educations will continue. And by the way, they should. You're scared to send him back. Does it change your point of view about any of this? Should have been the automatic follow-up question. Georgia Governor Brian Kemp, Republican, said in a statement, "This is a day every parent dreads, and Georgians everywhere will hug their children tighter this evening because of this painful event." He's not going to do a damn thing about it. Thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers. The ex-President Trump said these cherished children were taken from us far too soon by a sick and deranged monster. He might very well be right. The 14-year-old might be deeply disturbed. He mentions the students, not the teachers, because he doesn't give a shit about the teachers. And of course, not a word about doing anything from a mental health standpoint to help 14-year-olds who are this desperate. And God forbid we talk about guns. How monumentally gutless, and what a typically and very predictable response. Appalachian High School has about 1,900 students, according to records from Georgia education officials. It opened in 2000 and is named after the Appalachian River on the southern edge of Barrow County. Barrow County. According to the school system, on Wednesday evening, hundreds gathered in Jug Tavern Park, in downtown Winder, for an ecumenical prayer vigil. Volunteers handed out candles, also water, pizza, and tissues. Some knelt as a Methodist minister led the crowd in prayer after a Barrow County commissioner read a Jewish prayer of mourning. Some came in athletic gear from Appalachia's crosstown rival, Winder Barrow High School. At the end of the vigil, someone released balloons in the colors of the school. Just, I don't know. I don't know. When is enough? When's enough enough? When is enough enough? I don't know. I don't know when this becomes enough for us. I don't know when we are I don't know when we're pissed off to the point that we finally demand better. That we demand solutions, that we demand answers, that we say to ourselves that this is simply not the country we want to live in anymore. I don't know what to say. I don't know when is enough enough. I don't understand it. Can you think, folks, of any other issue, any other anything? I mean, where 90% on some of these issues, not all of them, to be fair, 90% of people support something, and yet nothing happens. Can you imagine? Going back to the beginning of the Trump regime, the first 2 years, one of the priorities of Republicans was to repeal the Affordable Care Act. Republicans had complete control. They had Trump at the White House. They had the majority in the House of Representatives. They had the majority in the Senate. And the corporate Supreme Court was already on the payroll. Your phone calls, your emails, your protests, your petitions, your showing up at local government offices stopped it from happening. Where is that same effort now to demand different, to demand better? We're joined by a special guest for the first time. For the first time during the program, during my program each and every night, and I hope I'm smart enough to remember to remind you on Sundays, I tell you all that when we finish, get a glass of milk, some cookies, walk the dog, make popcorn, whatever you need to do, fold laundry, whatever it is that you're doing, come back at 11 p.m. and talk to T. Nathan and listen to conversations with T. Nathan. Well, live on the screen right now is T. Nathan. I offered up to everybody at GCPR if they wanted to come in, join the program, and talk about this event today. T. Nathan was kind enough to take time out of his evening and his own show preparation, by the way, to come here, give us a couple of words before we say goodnight. Welcome to TKE Tonight, my friend. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Well, thank you. How are you doing today?
I'm all right. We've spent really the whole program on this shooting and this latest shooting, the newest,
Right.
Most recent, newest, however you want to say it, shooting. And,
Disaster.
an hour plus doesn't do it justice, but I'm just wondering, without trying to take, too much away from your own program.
Oh, no, you're welcome to it.
I'm just wondering what you thought about it, when you heard the news today.
And it's so strange to mention that because I originally heard the news because I was on Instagram. I was on Instagram just scrolling, and I saw this Instagram post from a young mother. Right, actually, it was the family of Mason, the victim. He's a victim. He's confirmed to be a victim. And I saw it, and originally they were looking for him. They were saying there was a school shooting incident in Georgia at the high school, Apache High School, and they were looking for him. And he's autistic, 14-year-old autistic young man. And that is when I went and I looked and I saw the news coming out of what had happened. And then I went back to check on it after I started talking about it. And they had posted that Mason was one of the victims. So the first victim I got confirmation of was a 14-year-old autistic boy that was at the school. And it hits differently when you have autistic people in your family, when you see the violence that is perpetrated in schools. Because Jeff, I'm listening to these people pat themselves on the back about how effective their school shooting drills are. And to realize that, what does that mean to a 14-year-old that is autistic, that you had a successful school shooting drill? Because we're not addressing the problem. I don't know if you're old enough, but I think you're a little younger. You're a lot younger than me. But I remember the worst thing we had to worry about.
I'm 55. I'm 55.
Yeah, you're 2 years younger than me. Okay. So you remember that we had drills in school for tornadoes, or even old enough to remember the nuke. I didn't even know what we were going to do. Nuclear bomb drills, right? But they were not real like it is when you have children like I do, and you're having to talk to them about school shooting. You're having drills in school for school shooting. And this is the 391st mass shooting of the year. We have not even got, what is this? We got about, 3 more months to the end of the year, and we're already up to 391 mass shootings.
Right. It's an average of, I think, about 1.4 a day.
Right. And we keep, and if I hear one more person say thoughts and prayers, I remember this is your show, not mine. So I don't say much.
It's all right. I asked you to stop by, so.
But if I hear one more person talk about thoughts and prayers, we're sending out thoughts and prayers. It's every time. Is that all we're going to do? Because we have to do something, and we have to start acknowledging that what we have been doing is not working. We as parents.
I mentioned early on that it's ironic to me, ironic in a bad way,
right?
That all of our quote unquote answers to these problems are backward. I mean, they're literally ass backward.
Right.
A shooter goes into a school. Well, then we'll have shooter drills.
Right.
We'll put quote unquote resource officers in the building.
They have 14. That school has 14 resource officers.
Let's put metal detectors. Let's arm teachers. It's always the so-called answers or policy solutions are only coming from one side. Profiteering for the weapons manufacturers and the metal detector companies. Why is it never coming from the other side? Why aren't we trying to help these kids who have reached a mental point where this is the only thing they can think of? And that's not to completely excuse some of these shooters. Some of them have just been downright killers. The kids at Columbine were killers. They were cold-blooded killers. Shooter in Sandy Hook was a cold-blooded killer. Some of these souls, sadly, are irredeemable, which is a hard thing for a Christian to say. Kind of goes against part of the basis of the faith. But isn't it ironic to you? Doesn't it? All the so-called answers come from the profit end of things, never from the societal betterment of our community's peaceful solutions end of things. It's always from the profit, never from the public.
Exactly, because it's not profitable to ever come from that other position, right? We are protecting gun manufacturers. We are protecting gun sales. We are protecting the NRA. We are protecting the very thing that makes protecting our children difficult. Because I agree with you. I am not the kind, I think I have said it before, I am usually not the one to advocate for a child to be tried as an adult. Because the shooter in this case is 14 years old.
Although he has been arrested and is being charged as an adult.
And going to be arrested and charged as an adult. I just, and it's not an easy answer towards the problem. Because I still think if, and I admit that short of some extreme regulations on guns, the guns are going to be a problem because our society has a problem with gun culture.
Right.
But we can lessen the problem. It's like we cannot.
Is this a case of the perfect being the enemy of the good?
Yes.
I tend to think that the NRA and those that are owned by the NRA love to make perfect the enemy of the good. Well, we can't solve this problem.
Right.
Okay, well, guess what? If you're starving, you can't solve the problem with one sandwich either. But at least it gets you further than you were when you had none.
Exactly.
Maybe a slot analogy.
And it works as an analogy because people they are in this mode that since we can't solve all of it, we're not going to solve
none of it. We won't even try. We'll solve none.
Right. But that only when it comes down to what they when they say that, all I hear them saying is our children's lives are replaceable. They are negotiable.
But they are, aren't they?
Yes.
Because if we can destroy education, we get cheap labor, and we get a fresh new stock of bodies that are so desperate to do anything with their lives. They'll join the military.
They'll join the labor force without an education. They'll do menial tasks.
Makes them cheap labor.
Cheap labor. And then we continue the cycle. Yes, I always tell people.
None of these shootings have happened at a private school or a religious school or a charter school. Happened in the public schools. And I think we have to admit, even us on the left, I think we have to admit, because this is a really cold, hard truth, that there is a segment of people on the right who not just want to end public education. They don't just want to damage it, they want to end it. Because private for-profit education is exactly that. It's for-profit, and it's limited to the people who can afford it. So the more shootings that happen at these public schools, that's just all the better for the private school industry. Because it's not happening there. And that's just the truth of it. We have not had a mass shooting at a Catholic school or a religious school. We've not had it at a private academy like, well, I can name some private academies in the area. No need to throw their names into this because they haven't done anything wrong. But you get my point. At Upper East Side of Manhattan Junior Prep, they're not having things there.
Good example.
So, I just made that up, but you get my point. These are happening in public schools. It's just yet another thing that we can throw to degrade confidence in public schools.
And we're not doing anything, and it's easy to target public schools when you have done everything to undermine public schools. It's easy to target when the tax rate or the money that is set aside for public schools is so low. I mean, how do we pay so little value on education in this country where teachers are having to support their own classrooms with their salaries? How is it that we have 1985 books that are being used as textbooks in classrooms in 2024?
Right.
And there have been many editions created since. It'd be one thing if the only book that you had on this subject was from 1985, right? And that was the most up-to-date you had. But you have skipped from 1985 to 2024, and there are literally 12 to 13 editions of the same textbook in between there. And your school's telling you that we can't afford the up-to-date information. And then we wonder why.
The books in the South that still refer to the War of Northern Aggression.
Yes, don't get me started about books in the South. Don't get me started. You're talking to someone who was raised in the heart of Mississippi and the black darkness.
When you get onto your program tonight, and I have to admit, and I don't admit this proudly, it's just a fact of life. I'm in bed when you're on because I got to get up at 5 in the morning to go to work, right? I still have a full-time job. But when you are on, you are everywhere on social media, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, you're everywhere. You have literally, folks, millions of people that follow you. And you are able to take in reaction while you're live on the air. We get some of it here, but we don't have the scope that you have. What do you expect to get as feedback from your audience when you throw me to the side and get to your own darn show? I mean, what do you expect to get? Do you expect to get a lot of? I mean, I don't want to beat everybody up that says thoughts and prayers, because some people mean it in the right sort of way, but you know what I mean. Do you expect a lot of that? Do you expect a lot of, oh, you just want to take my guns? Or do you expect a lot of anger of like, gee whiz, when do we finally do something?
Jeff, I expect the same thing we always get. All of that is coming. Everything you mentioned will be in my audience tonight, in my comment section. As a matter of fact, I just posted a video on the last update. And let me tell you, and it's interesting you mentioned that. I posted a video on the last update, and we're at 34,000 likes right now, 34,000. And I'm looking at the comment section earlier before I came on. And that is exactly what it is. I could go back to Uvalde, the video I did on Uvalde, and I could substitute the comment section in, and nobody would know. Because it's the same people that have thoughts and prayers are still thoughts and praying. The same people who are saying they're trying to take our guns, even though not one gun has been taken since Columbine, are still saying the same thing. And there are still people that are angry and outraged that are not leaving their couch. They're not looking up, they're not contacting, because very few of us are actually doing the work that says, hey, it's not enough just to be angry. Y'all been angry since the first one. I remember one in Picayune, Mississippi when it started off, right?
Yep.
I remember these. I remember, Jeff, and you know, because my record, my lifestyle is perfect, is public knowledge about, I was a badass 13-year-old in an organization, but we never shot up a school. Do you understand that this is no one's doing anything except washing and repeating the same thing after every shooting? As a matter of fact, I said one day, we're just sitting waiting for the next one. That's all. Nobody's doing anything.
Some of these communities that we can name off the top of our heads, we would never know except for these events.
Nobody would know Picayune.
Know where the hell Uvalde, Texas is.
Would
any of us know
Sandy Hook
County, Georgia, Sandy Hook, Connecticut, Paducah, Kentucky?
Right.
Like, would any of us know any of these places,
The only reason we know
for these events.
that's it. The only reason we know these places is because they are the scene of a crime, a mass
A
shooting.
mass crime.
That's it.
Right.
If you look at Michigan and the parents that were finally found guilty, and people were all up saying, "Oh, this is the start of something." It's the start of what? It's the start of what? We are doing everything but addressing the problems. There is no reason a civilian should have access to a device, a weapon that is capable of killing hundreds of people in 60 seconds. You can't excuse that with being a hunter because I hunt. And if it takes me 100 rounds to bring down something, right, I need to get my food at Walmart like everybody else.
Yeah.
Okay? This
Yep.
is not making sense. The arguments we have, and I'm so tired of people that can't name one other amendment in the Constitution of the United States talking about, I'm here to protect the Second Amendment right to bear arms. You stupid
Yep.
That's
Gotcha.
not even what the Second Amendment said.
Right.
It is not. It is not.
Let's forget the
Because-
regulated militia part.
Right. Let's just forget that
We
part.
always
And-
just skip that part.
Right. And let's be realistic. This is 2024. If the United States government decides to turn against its citizens, that weapon you have in your house is not going to save you from the agency that has F-16s, that has Abram tanks. You know, it amazes me that we talk about the right to bear arms, but we never talk about the right to bear arms that are seriously able to repel a government that turns against us.
Right.
These weekend warriors that look like they're in the shape of a butterball turkey out here having these drills talking about they're preparing for a civil war, this and that. And that. I will beat one of them to death with a bat before they will get off a round. But they think this is what they need to do because they're used to it. And they believe that this is what they have to do. Pearl High School, that's it. Okay, Google, cancel alarm.
I want to, before I continue for just a few more minutes here with T. Nathan, because I'm already well over my time and he has to get ready for his show.
Yeah.
And again, to be perfectly blunt with you all, and a little selfish, to be honest, I want to go to bed. I haven't really slept well in about 4 nights, and I don't know what I'm running on right now. That said,
You want me to send you some of my insomnia powers?
hold on.
Because I'm up at 5 o'clock in the morning also.
Oh my God, I don't know. But what I want to do is a little bit, I'm going to be very blunt with you, is a little bit of shameless self-promotion. I'm very proud of the team that we have put together here at GCPR. And you've heard me tell you on Monday nights that immediately following me is an exceptionally important program called Cold Dead Hands. Cold Dead Hands is co-hosted by Ben, Dowd, Arrow, and Brett. Ben is one of the leading university experts and professors on the gun crisis in this country and on gun violence, on the Second Amendment, and on gun culture. It's what he teaches at university. Brett is the father of a student who was massacred at Uvalde. This isn't just fluff at this station. This is deeply serious shit. So it is not just, we have fun on the station too. Superplex Party, Rules of Nerdquisition. We have computer help on this station. The help desk is on every Tuesday with George and Gilbert. Cold Dead Hands is one of the most important things that I've ever been a part of. And to be honest with you, I'm not a part of it. I'm a part of it because I'm a part of GCPR. It's one of the most important things I've ever been related to. And we will be starting a series of crossover programs throughout the entire team at GCPR. This is actually not one of them. This was very spur of the moment. So I'm going to make T. Nathan suffer and have to come back here again and put up with me on a more planned, promoted sort of way. But there will be a series over the next few months of crossover shows. Thomas will visit T. Nathan. T. Nathan will visit George and Gilbert. George and Gilbert will visit Ben and Brett, and onward and onward and onward, and we will all cross over each other. He tried to say, that's when I know I need to sign off when I can't pronounce words anymore. And we'll all be seeing each other and visiting each other along the way. Don't wait for Brett and Ben to come here. Don't wait for them to come to T. Nathan. They will, and you will enjoy it, and you will learn, and it will move you. And if it doesn't move you, then something's wrong with you. But it will move you. But they are on every Monday from 9 p.m. Eastern Time. They come up right after us and right before T. Nathan. They're right in the middle there from 9 to 11. Cold, dead hands. And I can guarantee you they are, I talked earlier in the program about how this story will go away.
Yeah.
It just will.
It will.
Especially with a presidential debate happening on Tuesday. Brett and Ben will not forget. And you're going to want to be there with them on Monday. Absolutely. I wanted to maybe just take it to 9:45 because I do need to get to bed, but I want to ask you a question. It's unfair because I haven't obviously given you the question ahead of time. I'm hitting you on the floor, but
I'm not a president. I'm not a presidential candidate. I'm good off the top of my head. Let's go.
one of the questions that I've always asked these real Second Amendment gun fetishists that they can't ever answer is the following, and I'd like to know what you think, not just of the question itself, but what you think the answer is. Why do you suppose, if I was addressing one of these folks, why can you explain to me why the Second Amendment is more important than all the other amendments? And most times they'll say, well, it's not more important. Freedom of speech is important too. Right. And they apply the same logic to the First Amendment too, because they always mention freedom of speech. We tend to forget about freedom of the press. And we never talk about the right to petition your government for redress. We never think of that. We don't talk about jury trial. We don't talk about help. We don't even talk about the old Revolutionary War of not quartering troops in your own home. And they'll say to me, it's not more important than it. Oh, but it is. But your fervent, semi-religious devotion to it is in your own mind makes it more important to you than all the others. Why do you suppose? Why are you standing for the position that it is the most important amendment? And I'll tell you why you think it is and why it's not. Because the Second Amendment is the one amendment that can deny you all of your other rights. Because it's really hard to exercise your freedom of speech if you're dead.
Or even if you just have a barrel of a gun pointing at you.
Fair enough.
Yeah, and I want to take this. I'll tell you, because let's be realistic. Who really fights for the Second Amendment? And I understand the history of the Constitution. I understand that people think it's a living document, and it is. But it also means things die, and the Second Amendment needs to die because of the fact that at the time that the Second Amendment was written, it was a different world. It was, yes, you could have a militia, because basically at the time what we were fighting with was a militia.
And we were fresh out of a war.
Right. And it made
fresh
sense.
Out of a war.
Right. It made sense for them to think that way. They were thinking about tyranny. They were thinking about what they had just faced. They didn't plan for that to be 300 years later, and we're still thinking about tyranny in the same terms that they did just getting out of a war. And so a lot of people, white men, want to hold on to the Second Amendment so fervently because they believe the only way to protect themselves and their place is by bearing arms. Now they look at tyranny as anything that leads to equitable treatment. They look at tyranny as anything that seeks to dispose them, even though nothing is seeking to dispose them
Exactly.
from the situation. They act like equity is the enemy. And so, yes, they want to hold on to these because they want to protect the rights that they have used to being just enjoyed by them and not shared with anyone else. So it makes sense when I see can I say the Klan on here? It makes sense when I see the Triple K guys or Proud Boys.
It's history.
It all makes sense when you see them so fervently about the Second Amendment, because they want you to understand that they will take up arms against that sea of trouble. That's a little Shakespeare in there, because that sea of trouble to them is anything that perceives, not even really in actuality would threaten anything, but they perceive as a threat. And they believe the government was created by them, for them, and they're the only ones that have any idea of how to make it work. And the problem is they only make it work for them, and everybody else, even white women, are second-class citizens under that system. And therefore, because of that, it allows the atrocities that happen, because nobody wants to change the system that has the power to change the system overnight. Because let's be realistic, if white men decided at any time to change the system of operation we are under, it would happen. Just like if, as a man, we talk about body autonomy, right? If anybody ever threatened them socks standing up in the corner of our rooms when we were younger, you could best believe we would be in the street million deep talking about, you're not going to interfere with our body autonomy. We would get it then, but we don't now. And Jeff, this has been amazing.
It is the old joke, though.
Yeah.
There's no laws on the books against a man's ability to reproduce.
None.
There's no forced vasectomy laws on the books.
None.
But that's not.
Never has been.
It's not by accident, is it?
Yeah, it has never been. Even in cultures around the world, when we talk about mutilation of women in the reproductive process, there has never been any culture that has engaged in any of those practices against men. None.
Right. Randall has a question. I think you can see it on the bottom of the screen. Where do they find live video of your show?
Of course, I'm on the GCPR network. You can get the app soon. You can put the call letters in your search bar and bring it up, and I'm on. Or you can follow me on any of my social medias. I'm on YouTube. I am on X. I finally got my X account back. I am on TikTok. And sometimes I'm on Instagram whenever I feel like putting in the extra information. But across all social media at 10 o'clock Central Standard Time, 11 o'clock Eastern Time, you can find me. You got to figure out the other time zone.
If you simply, I've told you all.
Or Google.
Yeah, just put GCPR in your search engine of choice. Again, I recommend DuckDuckGo, but beside the point, because they don't trace your history. You all have done it too. You type, I don't know, best tasting cookie into Google, and suddenly your Facebook stream is filled with cookie ads.
Yeah.
Trust me, you've all done it, right? Or you look for, I don't know, when you're Christmas shopping and you see all that stuff. Anyway, my point is, if you plug in Teen Eighth into the search engine of your choice, you will find him.
Yes.
Find him at gcpr.live. You will find him on the GCPR YouTube channel. Randall's asking if you are on Facebook. Yes, the GCPR Facebook page. Ghost Claw Productions Radio Facebook page. You are there. Anything related to GCPR or just plug in is named right there in the square. Teen Ethan, you will find him. Man is everywhere. I have sometimes, rarely, I gotta be honest, rarely, I try to stay as ridiculously, stupidly humble as humanly possible. But every now and then I think to myself, man, I got this many people listening and this many people are following, and it's not this compared to that guy. Let me tell you right now, it ain't. It's not. I'm over here. He's over. There's literally
No.
millions of people that follow him and listen to him and watch his videos. And having him at GCPR is a great, great pleasure. It's a great, great honor. You need to be checking him out. I think you're doing all 7 nights. Is that right, or just the weeknights?
No, I'm doing the weeknights, and I'm going to talk to Jeff. I was supposed to talk to you. This might be a good time, but I was going to talk to George
Hey,
and Jeff about. Yeah, it's like put you on the spot, right?
I know.
About my Saturday show, right? But that's what Thomas told me to do, and I was like, I've been so busy, I haven't had time to call you. I was like, hey, I'm here now. Let's talk about.
Well, you gotta have
no.
better to do with yourself than do a show 7 days a week. Don't do that. You burn out. Don't do that.
But I couldn't do it. I tell people I couldn't do it in the daytime because I am, I'm on the go all the time. But the night works perfectly for me because for some reason nobody wants to be at a protest at 11 o'clock at night. And so
because we all gotta go next day.
Yeah, right. And everybody's not like an insomniac that be up at 4:30 in the morning.
Usually the people who have to work for a living, we're in bed by then. We don't protest at midnight.
Right. Nobody's paying it. Well, we did in Minnesota, but that's
right.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to get out of here.
Thanks so much for popping in. Please know you're always welcome here. I know you have a show of your own to get ready for. I get all that stuff, but the door is always open to you. You know where to find me. You're always welcome here. Always.
Yeah, and anytime you want to talk about something that you think my expertise is, just you know how to contact me.
I do stay up late on Fridays. Maybe we'll do that.
Oh, maybe we'll do that. All right, peace out. Hey, thank you all for having me.
T. Nathan returns to you in about an hour and 15 minutes live here on GCPR.live. Conversations with T. Nathan. This is an extremely smart guy with a massive, massive social media presence. He protests, he streams live, he's informed, he's smart, he knows what he's talking about. And again, it's not about always agreeing with him, but about talking to him, listening, sparking that debate, having conversations. So that's about all the damage that we can do for one night. We went 45 minutes over. Remember, 11 p.m. Eastern time, T. Nathan comes your way. He's out now getting himself together for his own program. Thomas the Villain, Thomas Bishop, returns to you tomorrow morning with the sound of coffee from 8 a.m. We return to you just a hair over 22 hours from now, 8 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow night. I'm telling you, on Monday, please try to remember, on Monday from 9 p.m. Eastern, Cold Dead Hands, right after us. You know that this shooting is going to be a topic. You want to hear from Ben and Brett. You want to get to know them. You want to hear them. GCPR, Ghost Claw Productions Radio .live. Our Facebook page is Ghost Claw Productions. You'll find us. Just put it into a search engine. You'll find us. We're on YouTube. We can be found. Put it that way. We can be found. I want to thank everybody for being part of the program tonight. Mike for calling, Randall, Donna, Chrissy, everybody in the chat. I didn't see the same number of new names that I saw last night. That was really actually very, very exciting last night to see so many new names watching the program. If I missed you and I didn't get to say hi to you, my apologies. I always try to say hello to everybody when I see them come in. I don't always do well with that, to be honest with you. I don't always when I see them come up. I don't always do well with that, keeping up with who's ever signed in and watching. But I don't know if we had the same, kind of new folks that we had last night. But if I missed you, please don't take any offense to it. I always try to say hi when I see a name. If you missed any of the program, our YouTube channel, youtube.com/that other side of information. We will be back with you tomorrow night. T. Nathan from 11, Thomas 8 in the morning. For everybody at GCPR, Thomas, T. Nathan, Brett and Ben, Pastor Best, Gilbert, Gambit, Solid Blue Sister, Gretchen. I think I got everybody. Bob Kosh. And new shows are coming. 2 new shows are coming. We'll have those hosts on as well to talk to you. For everybody that surrounds the Kennedy Effect, April Riddick, George and Lynn Dare, Kristen and Daisy the dog downstairs, I'm Jeff Kennedy. Until tomorrow night from 8 p.m., please take care of yourselves and each other. Grab some milk and cookies, T. Nathan, from 11. Have a great night, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow.